up to the sky. I dream of you alive. Not a day goes by that you don't come to my mind. We all have the same dreams, they crumble at the seams. Just always know I think of you. You're by my side to guide me through. You're there to catch me when I fall. I feel you're there when I call. I feel the wind on my face. I just wish it was you. And as the day goes by, wishing we were side by side. I got my memories, they'll always be with me. Be with me, be with me, be with me. Just always know I think of you. You're by my side to guide me through. You're there to catch me when I fall. I feel you're there when I call. I feel you're there when I call. Oh, oh, oh. Just know I think of, just know I think of, just know I think of, just know I think of you. Just know I think of, just know I think of, just know I think of, just know I think of you.
Just hold me like an infant, with speaking up on like a chips. Oh, what I want, you fucking know the secret. Hear the right, she never fuck up, no baby, I'm so risky. Any position you want it in, love it and all my life a conversation, fuck my life a confrontation. Need you call it desperation. Oh, kiss like the best vacation, keep my common destination. The team and more than if all I do than you I can't be good. The more you love, gonna slap you with the back. Punish me with pleasure, you're the best I've ever felt. Kiss me soft from a sheet to jars and turn your own out for jar. Into the eye, into the grass, like the other guy now. Beating on me all the time, see me in the phone up for all the time. Anytime we call, you know what time it is. You go first, all over the town. You call me whenever. You know that there's no sex that's better. No. My life a conversation, fuck my life a confrontation. Please, you call it desperation. Just like the best vacation, keep my common destination. The team and love in me, all they gonna use. I want your hand to keep you up. You deserve it. Don't let me take you off. Girl, it's you. Girl, it's you. When I'm a blind man, still I feel deep down for me. You bring out the devil in me. That makes my name. But you put me on the man. It's the most in
"2020 is pulling everyone's mask off." I mean, whether it's the Democrats and their murder of the Me Too movement and their blind support for someone like Joe Biden.
They seemed really unreasonable, and it's like, are we still playing this game? What do you guys think about that?
In the here and now, that is going to be my concern. We don't want to see any more loss of life just because he wants to own the
And then have these politicians who want to co-opt everything just because it's near election time.
But solutions for these problems have to be positive, and they can't be based in policing. They just can't be based in more authoritarianism. They can't be. You don't arrest your way out of these problems. all kinds of music out there. Hi, everybody. And I was told I have some audio problems. I don't have any audio problems anymore, do I? You guys can hear me now? Yay. How you doing? All right. So thanks for joining us here on New Jersey Revolution Radio Live. I just did a little dress rehearsal with my audio down, and I want to thank everybody. You notice I also had no intro music, and I apologize for the no intro music, but we're back. And now, wait, let's see. I get that. Now I can hear you. See, thank you very much. And we are just having some technical issues over the last couple of weeks and months. You know, it hasn't been as polished. We lost quality audio for a week or two, but we are in studio this week. We've got, for the most part, up and running. I can't hear music though, so I was guessing it's when the music ends. I forgot to hit a button, but I was talking about some of the artists. Sean Fury, you heard there earlier, messaged me on Instagram and said, "Hey, I heard you. You play music on your radio station. You know, if people message you on Instagram." I said, "Fuck yes, I play music from Instagram." And so I played Sean Fury. He's out of England, and he was really excited that we in the States will be listening to his music tonight, and we did at the beginning of the show. And also, I want to thank Triple Live, who's a promoter out of Trenchtown, believe it or not. And if you have heard of Trenchtown, you will know that it is the home of Bob Marley, where he was born. So Triple Live sent me this music. Sean Fury, sent me music out of Europe, and I want to quit the artist right here. But oh God, and I lost the artist name while I'm sitting here bumbling with all my new equipment. But I want to thank them for contributing. And I said, listen, if you send me some music on Insta or whatever, I'd love to play it. So, message me, or you can email us at info@njrevolutionradio.com, and send me some MP3s, send me some YouTube clips or whatever. I enjoy playing the music in the morning. I've actually been, I wake up and I look at my DMs, and there's been like a new song in my box every day or every 2 days. So I've really enjoyed listening to it. So thanks for all those DMs for the music, and keep them coming, man. Keep them coming. I can't wait to introduce my new guest. She's been on the show a number of times. One of the guests that I've kind of started to lose count of the number of times that Kathy O'Leary has been with us from Pax Christi. But thanks for coming tonight, Kathy. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah, nice to be here. I think it's only been 3. Not that many.
Well, we talk a lot off the air as well, so it's nice. Kathy is an awesome activist out of what town do you work out of?
I live in Long Hill County.
Live in Long Hill. So up North Jersey.
Yeah, North Jersey. Morris County.
Clearly North Jersey.
Yeah.
Clearly North Jersey. Cool. So, what's been going on? Your organization, for people who are Pax Christi, is involved with the Catholic Church. Can you explain to us a little bit of how how Pax Christi works and its affiliation with the church?
Oh yeah, we're more than a little bit involved with the church. So I'm the New Jersey region coordinator for Pax Christi USA, which which actually derives its 501(c)(3) status from the USCCB, which is the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops. And we're a nation section of Pax Christi International, which enjoys the blessing and the approval of the Vatican. So, so we've the organization's been around since 1945, and it was a reaction to World War II, and basically millions of Catholics killed each other. So there was just a need for there to be reconciliation and healing, and that's kind of where it all began. So it's an interesting story.
It's an important history. So recently the Catholic, I don't follow as much, but I was born and raised Roman Catholic. I'm not practicing as much as my mom would like me to. But recently the Pope did come out with an encyclical where the church has accepted civil unions. I don't know that gay marriage is, but that's what came, in this country, we saw civil unions before we saw gay marriage. And not really knowing a lot of the politics behind everything. What does this encyclical mean? I think maybe for you and the more progressive elements of the church, and then maybe what does it mean for the church as a whole?
Right. The Pope has been just amazing for the more progressive. It's kind of weird though, being Catholic and saying I'm progressive, because I don't really fit in and you and I have had these conversations about I kind of sort of fit in with you socialists, but I don't entirely. And I sort of fit in with some conservatives, but, not really. So, it's like, I'm not conservative. I'm not liberal. I'm Catholic. So, and, like the Gospels are pretty radical, pretty radical toolkit, right? Jesus did some wild stuff, right?
And he was not liked by the authorities at the time.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why they nailed him to a piece of wood, right? It wasn't because he was walking around telling everybody to be nice to each other. So, but like in terms of the encyclical and the Pope's comment about civil unions, it's kind of, to me, it's kind of like where the church should have been in the first place, because again, going back to the gospel, give to Caesar what's Caesar's and give to God what's God's. And it's like civil unions are like, it's not the role of the church, right? Like the church has authority over marriages in the church, right? And whether or not they're going to award you the sacraments, and there's nobody gonna ever step on their toes when it comes to that in the United States. But for us to be, as the church, and more of the conservative members of the church want to start saying, well, we should outlaw gay marriage, as a country. Well, we're not a theocracy, right? And as a church, we don't want to be a theocracy, right? There's plenty of discussion about that's not a good thing either. So it was kind of like him just stating the obvious for me. So it wasn't like that great. But it's nice to be able to say, well, the Pope said it, and not Kathy O'Leary said it. I can't hear you, Brian.
I think that, yeah, I know. I think your point is well taken, that it's nice to see, and that people who already prescribe to the view that this should be the position are relieved to see it. But like you said, there's still elements of the church that aren't going to be completely on board, and this is an evolutionary process, just like like I said with American policy. But what do you see? What do you think the effect is on like the wider church? I mean, the church is a global organization. It consists, like you said, it's not like we talk. You can't pigeonhole, I think, Catholics, just like you can't pigeonhole any other group into political thought, because they're conservative and progressive Catholics. And not only that, but there's Catholics that speak all kinds of different languages and have all kinds of different cultures. So when the Pope puts out something like this, which is extremely controversial in so many different ways, like what's the mass effect, you think? Is it still going to take a very long time for the church to accept just this step forward, or is this gonna kick it in the butt a little more? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's important. I forget, I was reading something where the author was reminding American Catholics that when the Pope speaks, he's not just speaking to American Catholics, right? He's speaking to everybody. So, and how things are interpreted differently. And we tend to think, as the American Catholic Church, we just assume that, of course, we're the most important ones. He's only speaking to us. And I think you need to kind of understand the American Catholic Church and how crazy it is that we have such divides in the church, and the other thing too, being a Catholic and being in the United States, and being a progressive Catholic in the United States, and a peace activist is really hard, because we're at the center of empire, right? Going back to Jesus was crucified by the Roman Empire. So if we were going to, and we're called to like look at the Gospels and say, well, okay, well, in that parable, where would I be? What would, and there's no very few scenarios that I can think of where the Americans wouldn't be the Romans in the Passion story. So
yeah.
So, and there's a lot of people in the church who are really enjoy that position of power. So when you look at the Supreme Court, and the majority of the court is Catholic, right? But they're not about necessarily big on loving your neighbor or or providing, Amy Coney Barrett was not was really big on gun rights, but not good on voting rights, and really bad on disability rights. So how does that all jive? So that's the Catholic Church that we have, and then you have the Berrigan brothers, right? that got arrested for over and over and over again for protesting the Vietnam War and the Kings Bay plowshares, who were just sentenced this past week.
Are they free? Are they free now? I know they got a sentence that was served to some degree, right?
Yeah, they're all sentenced to. I think we might be waiting for another one, but they were all sentenced to like a somewhere in the neighborhood of a year. A year. I think the shortest sentence I saw was 10 months. So, but they do have some that were there was some time served. So, but there's definitely prison time.
Yeah, I'd like to, we do mention them. If you don't get it, if you're listening and you haven't heard about the what was the name of the plowshares? I'm sorry, the name of the group again?
Kings Bay
Plowshares. That's right. They were the ones that broke into a nuclear facility. I believe had some blood on them and some other articles of, and they had a warrant with them, I believe, to seize the property in the name of peace or something like that. I mean, it was pretty radical shit, and they've been in jail for a couple of years now for it, and we appreciate that. And this is something that came out of Catholic radicalism. It's pretty cool stuff and stuff to be admired. So I appreciate you. I appreciate your organization. We're going to get into a lot of the incarceration issues you dealt with, and that's close to home. That's we're going to be talking about Hudson and Essex counties here in New Jersey. But before we get to that, let's bring in another great activist from North Jersey as well. We didn't go south for this one too far. Oh, we did go to Maryland. We'll be bringing in Zero Conditionz in just a minute. We went a little too far south. We went beyond the borders of this great nation. But right now we're going to bring in Anthony Diaz. What's up, comrade? How you doing, man?
I'm just living the dream, man. Still alive. Every day I wake up, I smile and I go, I'm happy to be alive, because there's a lot of people that don't get that luxury.
Yeah, man. It is. I just messaged in a friend today. Said, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm holding on to one blade of grass, and that's good enough to keep an Irishman on the earth." So,
there you go.
I'm trying, man. So we know you, of course, from Newark Water Coalition, and every day almost I see something coming out. And it ain't just a social media post; it's a social media post about activity that you're doing. And the numbers are out there. I've seen this thing with Lyft going on, the number of disposable water bottles and the waste that you've saved by distributing bulk quantities of water to people. It's really impressive work. This is a daily job for you and a few other people, right?
Yeah, and here's the thing, right? I was having a conversation with a friend. So all right, so let me back up before I get on my soapbox and stuff like that. Is this deal of, we partnered with 501c3, which is a nonprofit group that was created, or company that was or org that was created by Jaden Smith, who's Will Smith's son, and Drew Fitzgerald. And so during COVID, Water Coalition had to limit a lot of its activities because we couldn't buy water because it was on restriction. And that pissed me off, right? Imagine being the co-founder of the Newark Water Coalition and you can't fucking give out water to people. And I was livid. It was definitely
You're just the Newark Coalition, huh?
Yeah, exactly. And so, we had this deal going on for a while with the 501c3, and COVID had halted it. But then when we reached back out and said, hey, we need to make this happen, our capacity is limited and all this other stuff. And they send us a water box, right? And I knew then and there it was a game changer. And I knew that, I also, being a cynical organizer and activist sometimes, is that you don't believe it until it's there. And then I saw it and I was like, wow, this is amazing. You connect it to a spigot or something, and then we can pump out as much water as possible, right? We're only limited by our manpower and our physical containers at that point. And so, I knew it was going to be a difference. But then when you look at the numbers, it's phenomenal, right? So in 13 days, we distributed, I think, 988 gallons of water. And that saved 7,888 single 16-ounce plastic bottles, right, from being used, right? That close to 1,000 gallons mark is 10% of our total distribution count for a year and a half, right? So in 13 days, we've already hit 10%. Now, imagine if I had multiple water boxes across the city, what I can be doing. And it's not just about the water, right? It's not just about the physical, tangible aspect that we're giving out. What we're using the water box program for is to hit like all these other areas. We want to start. So before we distribute water, we have to test it. And they gave us a testing kit. Now we have a little bit of funding. I'm purchasing more of these kits so that we can start community street teams for lead testing, right? Independent of the city, they can test your home in real time. And we keep it moving, right? If you have a problem, we'll help you out. If you don't have a problem, now you're in a better position. Your home is safe. And so it's that project. It's also connecting with the mutual aid groups, right? If you are in Jersey, and this is my call out there, my call to action to most folks. If you are in Jersey, the Newark Water Coalition will provide you with water if you're doing a mutual aid project, if you need a donation or something like that, right? We're also trying to work with the houseless community, right? Haven't done much in that community and would like to do a program. If we're having these reusable jugs, they can come to the church every Saturday and, pick up water. It's a way for us to have a conversation with them and build relationships with them. So, at the start of 2020, I was all about we need to be building wider and bigger coalitions. We have to be doing that. Our brand or the scrappy work that this group has done, we've gone very far, but if we want to go even further, then we have to do different things. And, I think Babe Ruth said, you can't win today's game on yesterday's home runs, right? So we always have to be moving. We always have to keep doing stuff. And it's hard to kind of rope this all together, have this big picture vision, and do all the work itself, but it's so necessary. It's for me, COVID was an absolute game changer, a wake-up call. We are not ready, right? And I mean that from every capacity. We are not ready. There is a war, a very real, tangible war on people, and we are not ready. We don't have the resources. We are out organized. We don't have the same goals. Our groups are scattered about, working in silos. This person is pissed off because you're doing this activity, and this other person's pissed off because you're doing that activity. We're not winning out here. And I say that to say that I tell people all the time, I share this all the time, there is no right way to do this. There's no book written on how to win under capitalist America under a pandemic in 2020. You can have all the theory in the world, but if you don't have the practice, then it's bullshit. And then if you're just out there doing the practice and the in the ground work, but your theory is based on what, based on, what happened in Russia or what happened in 1968. Nah, the world is radically different. It's changed.
I was listening to Richard Wolff earlier. I was parsing through some YouTube videos, and Richard Wolff was talking about how he wants the future. He was debating with this libertarian, and boy, did libertarians sound dumb. And Richard Wolff, he's a pretty smart dude. For those of you that don't know who I'm talking about, he's one of the very few Marxist economics professors in the United States of America. He may be the only one in America that I know of, at least. But he's talking about how, much along the lines of what you were saying, that socialism and this new world that we create isn't going to be Russia. And really, we do talk a little too much about that in the academic circles of the left. But I think the new generation, I think my age, younger, I think you're in that group or whatever. I think we are talking about the future. We're not really talking about socialism. We're not really talking about revolution. We're not really talking about, communism or capitalism. We're talking about, how do we make things better? How do we make sure that people have fresh water on a daily basis without having to walk down the street? And while you were telling me the story, Anthony, I was wondering, where is the city at now? Because you guys made a lot of noise. You did have some victories that were touted as far as getting funding from the federal government. Where is the city right now as far as being able to provide water and test that water to make sure that it's being delivered properly?
I think, the city is always going to be the city. They're always going to have holes in their programs and holes and gaps in their education pieces and what they're doing and all of that, right? Like, we know that. That's how just bureaucratic government works. So the programs that they have on the books are actually really good. They're really good in theory, if they are executing, right? And that has always been my problem with the city, is they don't execute well. And then it just becomes like this tit for tat thing. I really don't know, right? I know what they're saying, but I don't know actually what they're doing. And that's because, again, I've evolved from that point of like having to point the finger at the city of Newark for everything, right? And for Roz at everything. They're going to do whatever they're going to do regardless. And this is kind of my point in like the activity or the way that the Newark Water Coalition is moving now. My entire focus, right, is back where it should have been in the first place. Or I mean, when I first started, it was always about community. But then when you start getting kind of this level or this status where you're at, it all gets really clouded, right? You think you're doing the work, but then you end up just being very adversarial. And then you're like, what the fuck am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? And so I really, really had to scale it back. I went through some stuff this year.
Yeah.
Coming out of that, we get the water box, and it's like, the first thing that I tell people when they ask me about our work in terms of like, what do you think is the most important thing that you do now? And I'm saying, like, we do a lot of shit, but the most important thing we do are the water distributions, right? Yeah. And so I had gotten away from that, right? Because I'm so busy running around, speaking at conferences and doing X, Y, and Z. I had gotten away from the water distributions. And there were times where, it was just me. I'm just the one doing everything at the water distribution. And like, but I was happy, right? I was just happy doing the work. And so to be back on that focus has given me such a better perspective of how to guide the organization towards the future, right? And I would say, and this is why I just don't care about what's going on with the city, is that I want to understand how to build a counter institution that is a home for activists and organizers to do the work that they really want to do without having to go through the non-industrial or the nonprofit industrial complex, without having to go and sell their work to corporate America. There are ways for Black and brown folks specifically to get the same kind of money and opportunities that white people get by doing the work and doing it in a way that connects and correlates all the dots to build these broad and wider coalitions, and so that we eventually win liberation for our people.
Yeah, it is important to love what you do, I think. And when you start to get scattered like that, and I've been there too, where you start to get scattered and you lose focus, you also, a lot of things start to fall through the cracks. I think it's important, for organizers to know when you take on too much, you do a disservice. And I think that one of the things I've done is kind of consolidated over the last couple of years. I tried to really focus my energy into just New Jersey Revolution Radio. I mean, that's kind of what I do now, as opposed to, I was Green Party, I was 15 now, I was doing this, I was a union rep, I was all that. And I think, having some turmoil in my own life, it makes you realize that turmoil ain't doing you no good. It ain't doing the people around you no good either. So coming out of it and having some focus and some purpose, right? Like you're talking about giving out water. When it's fun to get up on a microphone, I'll always listen. Maybe I'm not with you on this because I'm still going to call people assholes on Twitter and shit because that's fun for me. But, I think that, when you get involved too much in the PR of it and the politics of it, you get away from doing the stuff that you got into it for in the first place. So I appreciate where you're coming from, man. We're going to bring in our last guest today before we start our panel. I want to do a few minutes talking to a comrade out of the Green Party. We did an event in New Brunswick maybe just before COVID hit. I forget when it was, but it was a trial event. We maybe got about 30 or 40 people out, but it was awesome. I smoked so much weed that night. I can't believe I really remember the whole night, but it was great. We got two 800 watt JBL speakers blowing the doors out of a church in New Brunswick. And I knew the next one was going to be fucking even bigger and better. And then, we had the plague break out, and it's been a story ever since. We haven't been able to run, events here, but Zero Conditionz was the main act. He did a rap song about the Green Party that night, and I appreciate you coming on the show. Talk a little bit about your activism and some more sides of you. Welcome back, brother. How are you?
How you doing, brother? Appreciate it. I'm out here.
Where is here? Where are you talking to us from?
Maryland. We down in Maryland, but yeah, I mean, I've definitely got in touch with the DMV vibe, and really wanted to put my art out there by any means necessary, so to speak. But in the process, have definitely connected with the different kinds of struggles going on the ground, especially in the Capitol. I mean, like there's this protest culture, which is great, but there's this other part of it, which is so many factions pulling in so many directions, and that disunity in the larger body of people, kind of like sometimes, takes away from the leverage that we could have, as far as making political impact.
I think, and Anthony was even touching on that a little bit, when I was interviewing him is, and we talked on the phone a little bit before the interview about, disunity. We have too many people going in too many different directions. I referred to Richard Wolff before, and I guess I'm going to talk about him a lot tonight because I watched him for like 4 hours today. But he talked about how we have to focus on common ground maybe a little bit more than we do on our differences of opinion. I mean, we all agree people should have clean water. We all agree on the left that people should have medical care and it shouldn't cost you anything. And we all agree on that capitalism is an unequal and unjust system that takes, doesn't allow for democracy. But we don't seem to have a lot of those conversations on the left in this country. It's more arguments over people voting for Joe Biden or not.
Yeah. I mean, DC is highly politicized when it comes to that. It's highly politicized. I mean, you can't get away from it even if you wanted to. So perhaps it's the best place for me to showcase my art. But at the same time, it's like, who's putting the work to educate people on the ground, because I feel like once you have knowledge, you can really break away from a lot of the ignorance. But maybe people are just scared to have knowledge. People are just scared to see what's beyond that ledge,
What do you see in DC lately? You spending a lot of time protesting in there?
I love protesting, honestly. Let me just say that. Like, I love the protest vibe. I love protesting. I love demonstrating. I look at it kind of like a performance. And so if there's a lot of people, a lot of coalition building, a lot of people involved, then it can really send a message, especially to politicians that are not doing their jobs. And that's should be the focus, But with this latest, attack from the MAGA cult, I want to say, that was just like, it was uncalled for, but based on the publicity that they had on their webpage, it was kind of expected. You know what I mean? So I think that when you go into a war zone, you expect to get hurt, and so I think there's a different level of organizing when it comes to that. You know what I mean? It's not like a typical demonstration. You can't just, I don't think activists serve the public good when they just go in there and get hurt. We need to be ready to deal with things and pick and choose our battles. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I mean, there have been a lot of situations out there protesting across the country where people have been getting hurt, even killed. We've had shootings in Minneapolis. What have you seen? You mentioned a little bit about the MAGA cult. And I know Proud Boys have been doing counter demonstrations across the country. Is this what you're referring to in DC? Or are you seeing these kind of, are they militia groups, or what would you define them as, these counter protesters?
I mean, thus far, a lot of the independent media on the ground have been able to bring to light stabbings on the Miller MAGA March from the MAGA lovers. But stuff like that, and then just different kinds of attacks on people. And I assume it's possible that it happens on the other side too, because I guess there's a reactionary movement that creates a lot of friction with these MAGA folks. So I as a revolutionary, I'm like, we cannot just be martyrs to a chess game that we get no reward from, and so really the point that I've been trying to make with people on the ground is that a white man's war led by black bodies is insanity. That's really my point. You know what I mean? And so who gets rewarded at the end of the day? That's if we really analyze that, we don't get shit except hurt. And so like if we're demonstrating cool, if we're demonstrating and showing something cool, but when it comes down to it, we gotta protect our homes and really start with that self-discipline first.
There was an industrialist named Jay Gould who worked for Rockefeller and said, I can pay one half the working class to kill the other half. And I think that we see that in CIA operations in Iran and overseas where, you find out they're involved in both sides. And the Iranian coup is one of the greatest examples of a government getting involved, paying one half of the one side of them, hey, you got to go get those guys, and then going to the other side and saying, hey, you got to go get those guys. And literally in a matter of weeks, creating civil unrest and civil wars. And there's no doubt that still goes on today through, both industrial, the war industrial complex is still pretty strong. And that's the main way of, keeping us divided in America. We do it along racial lines. I mean, we obviously have a history in this country of discrimination against all manner of people, but particularly black and brown people in this country. So it's not a new game, unfortunately. Anthony looks like he's got something to say over there. About, I saw him nodding his head. And, hey, we're putting black people out there to die for a white man's war. I couldn't agree more. For me, it's always been poor people dying for rich people. Let the rich furnish their own corpses, and we'll never have a war again. Anthony,
I'm trying to be,
go for it. No,
I don't want to say fuck white people. But okay. White people need to start organizing in their own communities. And I'm it has occurred to me more and more and more, especially doing the work, right? And I think the reason why I say that is that, yes, come help us, give us the resources. But if you're looking at this from a just electoral politics point of view, majority of white men, majority of white women voted for Trump, right? That's where all their energies go. But what you see is more black men voted for Trump, more Latin people voted for Trump. But fam, 60% of y'all are voting for this man. So let's start with how about the racial issues within your own communities before you start pointing the finger at us. And then on top of that, because again, I'm not one for the two-party system or the Dems or the Republicans, but to mount Stacey Abrams up as this goddess of look at what she did in Georgia after she got screwed over in her own election is ridiculous, right? This whole, this is like the point I try to push the most. The absurdity of the system itself and what it has done on full display this year. They are lucky that black and brown people don't set ablaze to this country. But yet it's us constantly getting the short end of the stick. That's what frustrates me. That's what really pisses me off, is that everybody wants to have a conversation about our community. But it's your community that started all this nonsense. It's your community that perpetuates these disgusting cycles, right? What is it? The Walton family ain't black. Elon Musk ain't black. Gates ain't black. Bezos ain't black. And even the black billionaires, yeah, I got my problems with them too. But again, it's these folks or y'all folks that need to get it together.
Amen. Amen. I mean, that's coming from a guy that spent his early activism organizing in Newark outside of my community. It raised my awareness is what I tell people, but it were certainly mistakes made, and I did learn a lot of lessons from them. And one of them was, to go back and talk to white people and take what I learned, which is unfortunate. I wasn't taught that in my own community. You know what I'm saying, Anthony? And my experience should have been different. If I could go back and talk to Brian, 7-8 years ago when I first started coming to Newark, I would have given him a lot of hints and tricks along the way. But I think I did come to the same realization as to what you're saying after time, and it was because I had good people around me like you and Kathy and even people in the Green Party, people in 15 Now, kind of guiding me along that path of getting woke or whatever you call it. But I can't emphasize enough to point more to my fellow white activists that, if you're going into communities that aren't yours, you want to learn something great, but in no way, shape, or form should you be, moving things or dictating movements or suggesting or giving help or aid, to their ideas and thoughts. If anything, shut your mouth, take some notes, and go home. And I really, at this point, I do try to take on that attitude as much as possible. But I wasn't born that way, man. And I was raised in an all-white community where I didn't learn Black history, and I didn't learn, I was taught that Russians were miserable because they didn't have blue jeans, and Africans were brought here as slaves, and they were treated pretty nice in some states that had lenient slave laws. I mean, literally, I remember those classes as a student. So, I got to offer thanks to Pop and all the people in Newark that tolerated my bullshit for a few years while I realized, all them mistakes. Woody's back, man. I got to take a quick commercial break. I don't have any music for the background in the commercial, so I apologize for that. But because of my technical issues, as I move my studio, I'm missing one little adapter. You guys know a little adapter that goes in from your headphones into the bigger jacks that the 3.5 millimeter. That's missing, and therefore I can't hear any of my music tonight. That's why I muted myself by accident for a couple minutes. I apologize. Those of you listening on the podcast, you don't know that because I'm going to fill in some music and cut out those mistakes later on. So, but those of you on live stream, but I want to thank the August Agency. The August Agency can be reached at 201-895-7227. I know Kathy knows Charlie probably. I don't know if Anthony's run into Charlie around North Jersey, but he does a lot of immigrants' rights protests, and he's up there. He just did an art gallery. I wish he promoted his art gallery. I told him to send me an email. I didn't get it on time, but he just did a mobile art gallery up in Jersey City. And if you need help with your small business, your activist groups, I know that sometimes when you start taking in a little money, keeping up on QuickBooks and doing your accounting for taxes at the end of the year is never something that communists or socialists think about because we're terrible capitalists. So give Charlie a call. Watch your QuickBooks for me. He watches the QuickBooks for me. He does my taxes at the end of the year. He's at the www.theaugustagency.biz. One more time, that's www.theaugustagency.biz. Or you call him 201-895-7227, and that will lead us in to tonight's big panel on incarceration. The state of incarceration is what I titled tonight's program, mainly because, elections happened, and I know that we want to get out of politics, and I know Anthony doesn't want to get involved in politics, but the bottom line is, as with any incoming administration, we're getting a ton of platitudes. We're getting a ton of promises. I'm starting to watch some appointments. Some appointments I've been disappointed with, and others I've been furious with. But other than that, it's moving along. But when it comes to incarceration issues, this is one of our most vulnerable populations. These are people that live at the will of the state. And what we've seen in New Jersey, in particular, a large focus in this area on ICE concentration camps. Hudson County, Essex County have been detaining people for years. And I know, Kathy, you're very close to the situation. And we were talking over the last couple of weeks and months of how we had some detention centers that were supposed to be closed, some actions that were going to be happening. But now we're hearing that that may not need to happen because we're going to have a friendlier administration. So locking up families and kids isn't as big of a deal as it used to be. Is that the sense you're getting going on right now? Or? I'm wrong, right? I'm wrong. I'm cynical, right?
It's not the sense. It's like word for word out of the mouths of the politicians in Hudson County in particular, but also in Essex County as well, and Bergen County. They're all saying that. They're all saying, "Oh well," and they've been saying it since the beginning. maybe the end of September, beginning of October. So they were really confident that Biden was going to win, and therefore, we can all keep our ICE contracts. And, it won't be so bad. I mean, they're also like pushing back and saying that, hey, don't be calling ICE Gestapo, and don't be calling our jail a concentration camp, because, that's the Holocaust. And it's like, so then you have to do this education again, like, what Anthony was saying about, you got to round up, it's the white nonsense roundup, right? that they're like, that they don't even understand that, like, there's the Holocaust and there's genocide, and there's the Nazi death camps and there's concentration camps, and they're two different things. And just because it doesn't rise to the level of what was going on in Nazi Germany doesn't mean that what ICE is doing ain't atrocities, and doesn't mean that it's not genocide. Okay. So, tell that to the women in the Irwin County detention facility. They're having their fallopian tubes taken out without their knowledge, right?
Horrifying.
Tell that to,
horrifying stories. Oh my
these
God.
kids they're shipping over the border, these kids in grammar school age, right? That they're sending over into Mexico now, and they're not even from Mexico. What the hell do you think is going to happen to them? Come on, let's be real. So, So and just to back up too, in terms of what else is going on here, and I don't want it to say like I'm the immigration detention person that without talking about this in terms of mass incarceration, because these are our county jails, and and I learned about how crappy the conditions were in the county jails because I studied immigration detention. But the conditions, it's not like they have like one jail for, they built a whole other jail for the people in ICE detention. It's the same freaking jail, right? So, and in some ways, the conditions for people in ICE detention are better than the people in the jail. So we always have to make sure that we recognize, and people are getting shipped from. And we have this immigrant trust directive, right? Which is bullshit. Yeah, it's a great PR piece, right? But they're still transferring people from New Jersey State prisons to ICE detention, and they just did it when they released the 2,200 people last week, which is great, right? And great job to all the organizers who made that happen, and Murphy's and Putz for making it take so long.
You're so Catholic.
I won't let anybody watch this. Yeah, so like for having this to take so long, and what happened was 88 people didn't even get to leave the prison doors and were taken into ICE custody, and ICE had a plane waiting for them. They didn't even go into ICE detention in New Jersey. They're in Texas right now.
There are so many horrible stories out there. We could go from whistleblowers being deported instantly as soon as making complaints. This sterilization of women is just, it's just torture. This is genocide. And they think the problem is that they're getting called Nazis. Oh,
yeah.
There's
a Hudson County freeholder who actually literally stands up and yells, "We don't have a concentration. It's not in our jail," and walks out of the room during a meeting. That's recorded.
I'm sure there were tissues in the other room. Anthony, I don't know how much you've been paying attention to the ICE, but incarceration's a huge issue in Newark. Here's
the thing, right? This makes me so tight, and like you can see, I'm visibly upset.
Oh yeah,
because. Right. This is where I push back on a lot of people who claim to be revolutionary, who claim to be liberal, or who claim to be just on the left side of politics. Right. In this country, we are doing forced hysterectomies. Right. In this country, we are separating families. Right. We are deporting veterans. Right. We are deporting children. So what's your line in the sand? Oh, when they kill black and brown people on TV. Hey, guess what? They're doing that, too. So it's like we have all the examples of why this system does not work for us. And yet you want to talk to me about voter registration? You want to talk to me about the census? You want to talk to me about electoral politics in general? Like, our laws have failed us. Our laws have failed us.
Yeah. I remember.
Do we stop giving our energy to the system?
Man, I think I'm past that point myself. As a matter, the sign off for my show is police can quit their jobs. I was actually born at a nice protest a couple years ago at the Essex County Jail because I was in one of those moods where I wanted to yell at cops, and I was just like telling the cops that they were being dickbags and Nazis, and that they could quit their jobs, that they didn't have to be there, protecting, a jail. They could be doing. My favorite thing to tell cops is that they could be building homes for people instead of locking them in a cage. There's plenty of work in the trades. Electricians and carpenters are needed all over the world. No offense to anybody else, but a little older white lady came up to me and said that she didn't think it was useful what I was doing. And from then on, every show I've said that the police can quit their jobs because that's my response. I mean, I think we do have. People think it's a hard line. They're locking people in cages and sterilizing women. And me calling them a Nazi is a hard line. I mean, it's very frustrating. Zero Conditionz has some connection issues. I hope we can get a few thoughts. And I know you've been dipping out in a little bit there, man. But, I don't know how much I know you've dealt with police brutality. It goes hand in hand. I mean, this is our justice system at work. How do you feel leading into a new administration and probably not getting as much press for these causes? I mean, what I think this results in is people just don't cover as much because they don't want Joe Biden to look bad because Trump was the bad guy,
Yeah. The bipartisan whole paradigm is just bullshit. And people are not educated on how we getting played for insecurities. We got two polarities that keep lying to us. And I don't know, like personally, when as much as we got hate for Trump, at the end of the day, his craziness brought a lot more people to the forefront. His crazy talk, his crazy personality that we all have come to hate. And that I feel like it is an issue when you got a fox in power and pretends to be your friend only to keep backstabbing you on the back end. So I don't expect certain things where both sides agree on, where we know they're in bed, whether it's the war or the incarceration. Clearly there is another force at play, so to speak. So how, like, I feel like a lot of it is the culture of prison. Like we have a culture of prison, right? We want to we imprison ourselves, right? We imprison ourselves in our work and in our beliefs. You know what I mean? And then we want other people in prison, and sometimes call it death penalty, like from on some religious, spiritual, some religious kind of cultist mindset. But then how do we break away from that? I think that if we are to shift the culture, it starts with consequences. So the consequences of streets becoming, burned down because of the collective rage, that's a consequence. So as much as people want to make the argument against it, and maybe they have a point, but what other consequence can these corrupt police face that is not gonna make them try to better the situation, or at least the politicians? I mean, what consequences do we need? Because clearly they're not going to do it from a purely political standpoint, from their own morality. They're not going to do it. So there has to be multiple ways to wake them up.
I wanted to throw out a question, and I don't know if anybody has an answer, because I know there's a lot of long-term solutions to prison, and those include nothing to do with authoritarianism or laws. It more has to do with drug treatment, education, making sure people have good standards of living so they don't do things, because you don't go to jail because you're a bad person. You go to jail because you're desperate most of the time. You have a drug habit. You have a medical, which is a medical condition. So there's really no reason for most of these people to go to jail. So I think the longer term solutions are kind of obvious, and honestly, we all know them. But we are getting pushback at the smallest things. They said they were going to close a jail. Now they're not going to close a jail because Joe Biden's going to be the president. What do you see as immediate short-term? Are there organizations, groups, or demands out there that you see as short-term solutions as opposed to these? I mean, the dramatic change we need to have in our society, which is so dependent on a large prison population. It's such a large piece of our economy and even a larger piece of our political system. What do we do in the short term? I mean, that's really what I was thinking about leading up to tonight's panel.
Well, I think I want to go back to what Anthony was saying earlier. Like, you know, the problem isn't in the center of Newark. The problem isn't in Jersey City. I mean, the problem's in the suburbs, right? The problem is like, you know, when Trump got up there and said, hey, you know, I'm saving the suburbs for you. What he meant was I'm going to keep law and order, which means that, you know, I'm going to maintain the status quo, which means that you're not going to have any crime in your neighborhood, right? Because that's where all the wealth and all the power is centered, not because there's more police there, right? So I think that you know, I need to start. You and I, Brian, we need to start. We got these, you know, and you know who your crazy uncles are, right? who are voting for Trump, right? And we got to talk to them about this is bullshit. And when you can see it too. I was Bill Maher, right? Big liberal, right? And he was on one of his shows I was watching, which I was flipping through, and he's sitting there saying, "Oh yeah, I'm all for Black Lives Matter, but stay the hell out of my neighborhood, right? I don't want you. I'm fine with you protesting as long as you don't have a bullhorn on my street. So don't disturb my space, right?" So I think that we need to get used to as white people being disturbed, right? We got to be willing to do something different and accept change, and you know, and that's where it's going to start. As far as I'm concerned.
Anthony, what can I do tomorrow to help fix this?
I think for me, it's platforms, right? And networks. One of the things that I share a lot is that, you know, I do a lot of the work that seems like random programs, but to build a stronger network, right? So giving more opportunities to Black activists, giving more opportunities to brown activists, or just people in movement spaces, right? They don't have a radio program. They don't have a following. You have a network that they'll never reach. You know, I was thinking about how I did an interview like with you very early on. And I remember someone reaching out to me specifically because they said, hey, I saw you on NJRR and like, I want to talk to you more about like what's going on. So it's these small connections that don't seem like really big deals that are actually really big deals, because you have a network that I don't know, right? And I have a network that you don't know. But it's beginning to build these connections of folks together that can mobilize through, you know, long-term change. And so what you can do tomorrow is see, like, you know, take a list, do an inventory. What assets do I have? What platforms do I have? What connections can I make? What resources that I have, as little as they may be, that I can share and put somebody else on, right? And then fall back, right? Fall back. You don't got to be the face of everything. You don't got to be at the forefront of everything. And that's me too. I try to put as many people on as possible. And I would say too, is like, because of your history in the various places that you have a wealth of knowledge that you can share with folks. But you don't got to pour it all out on everybody. You pour on what they need, right? Take everything with a grain of salt, or take things that you need and leave the rest. And I think those are very tangible things that you could do tomorrow. And if y'all got money, white folks that got money, y'all need to put them not back into the Democratic Party, not into these big institutions, but into your grassroots organizers, right? People that aren't getting paid, that are doing the work. And if you don't know any grassroots organizers, pay a Black person just because they could use the money, just because they want the money, whatever. So there are very tangible things people can do. And it's not, you don't have to go crazy with it. You just have to really look at what you yourself have and bring to the table and just share it with another person. And literally that's how you begin. That's what the work is really about now, or at least for me these days. We can't hear you.
I think that's a level to get to, man. You know what I'm saying? What you're talking about is something you need to get your feet in the ground. You need to be able to learn how to crawl and then walk. And I think that, now that I feel like I'm getting there, and what this network and our donors, like you said, those people that have kicked in a few dollars to help independent media, Newark Water Coalition or whatever, what they've allowed, me and other activists that have stuck around for a few years to do is to start to train other activists and see other activists develop. And I can tell you, there's nothing more rewarding. I mean, it's nice, walking around saying I'm a senior organizer and I founded this network. I'm going to keep doing that because I like bragging and I'm proud of it. But the appeal to me right now is giving a little, like, just being able to play a tune for these artists before it. I mean, I'm getting, I spoke about it in the beginning. They're excited to hear their music, even on this little podcast, and so, as we organize, and for those younger organizers out there listening, what Anthony's talking about is more fulfilling. I'm way more fulfilled watching somebody that I worked with for the last 2 years get on the podium for the first time and give their first speech rather than myself getting up on that podium nowadays. It just feels better watching other people have success, We're running out of time. These things always go too quick. And tonight I could probably sit with you here all night, but y'all do too much already. So we're going to go around the room, make sure everybody gets in their last thoughts. If you have events and plugs, and tell us where we can donate money to you, Anthony. Make sure we'll start off with you. Wrap it up, man.
So you can go to www.newarkwatercoalition.com. There's a big donate link on that on our website. We're on Instagram, Clean Water for Newark. We're on Twitter, Clean Water for NWK. Find us on Facebook. My personal IG is Newark Politics. So just any of those ways, contact me, partner with us, reach out. Our email is newarkwatercoalition@gmail.com. I don't really turn down many projects these days, so reach out.
That may be your flaw, man. You don't turn down enough projects these days, but you're a great dude and one of the best activists in New Jersey, no doubt. Kathy, I can catch up with you, sister.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Like I said before, we've got a hunger strike at Bergen County Jail. We got Hudson County Jail. We're trying to shut down the ICE contract, and Essex County Jail. We're always after them, and then we have the Elizabeth Detention Center, where it all started in New Jersey 25 years ago. We're always after. We found out that Elberon Development Group, which is a local organization that likes to give money to places like Kane and NJPAC, owns the place. So there's a whole lot of stuff to get involved with. I'm part of the Abolish ICE New York, New Jersey Coalition. We have a platform that we just gave to Governor Murphy that would basically end ICE detention, end all these transfers, and would do a whole lot to reduce the footprints of policing and incarceration in New Jersey. So you can reach out to New Jersey Advocates for Immigrant Detainees at NJ Advocates on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook to find out how to get involved. And if you want to donate money to First Friends, donate money to the American Reentry Initiative, which is helping everybody who's now being released from New Jersey's prisons because of COVID, helping them get reacclimated into society with helping them with housing and referrals and all kinds of stuff. So that's my big point.
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that and appreciate you being on. I'm going to give Woody just 1 second. He's been popping in and out. Oh, there he is. Quick, Woody, tell us where you want us to send money and how we can watch you on the internet and stuff. Did Woody freeze up? Woody's been freezing up. Zero Conditionz. There he is. Hey, yeah, we're doing last minute plugs, man. Let people know where they can find you and how they can support your work. Yeah, we're losing. We're losing Zero Conditionz. There he is.
I'm active on Instagram. I got my Facebook page. I got the Twitter, all under Zero Conditionz. The whole name. Yeah, I've been having a lot of connection issues. I don't know if y'all can hear me. I'm having a lot of connection issues.
Yep, it's been going
targeted. What is?
Nah, it's been going in and out all night, but we do have some connections issues here and there. But I want to thank everybody again for coming in tonight. We'll make sure we get everybody's plugs out on the site. Leah, our show writer, will be writing this up and making sure to provide those links. Your donations help support us here at New Jersey Revolution Radio. NJRevolutionRadio.com. We're trying to get more monthly donors. Giving us $15 or $20 a month really helps me budget and really helps me make sure that we can, get out to as many people as possible. Yes, Pat, I'm formerly incarcerated. We do. So we've had we've had a lot of success over the last couple of years, and Leah coming on board has been amazing. I mean, more people know about us, and it's directly because of your contributions to our network. So I want to thank my guests again, Kathy and Anthony, plus Zero Conditionz. You guys know you can come here anytime you want. You message me when you need some PR. You know, Anthony's taking the high road now. He's doing the good work in the streets. Now, I'm still going to be a loudmouth asshole, bro. It's going to keep going. I mean, it's the way God made me. What can I say? All right. But I want to thank you again. And until next week, Wednesday nights, 8 p.m., you can check us out live on Facebook, on Twitter, or on YouTube. And until then, this is Brian Powers reminding everybody that the police can quit their jobs. See you next week, everybody.
2020 is pulling everyone's mask off. I mean, whether it's Democrats and their murder of the Me Too movement and their blind support for someone like Joe Biden.
They seemed really unreasonable, and it's like, are we still playing this game? What do you guys think about that?
In the here and now, that is going to be my concern. We don't want to see any more loss of life just because he wants to own the
And then have these politicians who want to co-opt everything just because it's near election time.
But solutions for these problems have to be positive, and they can't be based in policing. They just can't be based in more authoritarianism. They don't arrest your way out of these problems.